Hello and welcome to episode 22 of Missed Mando, Ontario's source for the latest in the disc golf world. I'm your host, Robbie Holden, joined as always by my friend and co-host, Sean Galbraith. No Galen with us today, although you will see him in our upcoming interview. So if you really miss Galen or something, don't fret, he'll be here. But who's really missing Galen? I don't really know. But Sean, how are you doing and what have you been up to since our last episode?
Doing great. Have not been up to almost anything. It's slow season. It's starting to get a little wintry out there. And just sort of gearing down for the holidays. The wife and I are heading down to visit her family in Florida for the Christmas season. So of course we've planned our trip around 2 different tournaments while we're there. So that should be fun. Including one where I'm going to be playing MP40 for no apparent reason. I'm going to get absolutely...
You're the bro on the podcast now.
I'm going to get absolutely wrecked. I think that there's only 2 other players in the division, and I think they outrate me by like 150 points or something like that. And then Gabby, she's going to be playing for fun in FPO as a normally sort of FA3 / FA50 player against Sarah Hokum. So
no big deal, former world champion.
Yeah, more than 200 ratings points higher. It's just going to be fun. There's not a lot of players in this tournament. So it's, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's Frolf. Let's just go down and have some fun and play an event. And then we're also playing an A tier that somehow has fewer than 50 players signed up over at Olympus. Paul Macbeth and the LCs for. So that's going to be a great trip. We're looking forward to it. Get some family time down there and play some tournaments. What about you? You been up to anything?
I did play in a tournament somewhat recently, and by somewhat recently I mean this past weekend. I was at the Tyendega, or was that last weekend? No, that was last weekend. I played the Tyendega doubles event, which is super fun. The Tango, the Tyendega Tango. It was my first time at the course. Was super fun. I was supposed to be paired up with my buddy Brady Belanger, who, if you've listened to this podcast through the season, you've heard his name a lot because he has won a lot. But he, the weekend before, hurt himself at the Golden Horseshoe doubles event at King's Forest, so he backed out, and they subbed in my buddy Ryan McFarlane from technically he lives in Cambridge, but just like me, from Cambridge, but reps the Guelph Disc Golf Club, so I know him really well. We played terrible in the first round. I think we finished at neg 6, which included birdieing the last 4 holes, so we were only neg 2 for a while, and we were still like at that point 7 strokes out of the lead, or maybe even 8 strokes out of the lead. Chris Lozalins and Spencer Young were dominating, but even the other, we were in second last at that point. And then in the second round played much better, and we were able to climb up at least one spot. We overtook one team that was out there, and Spencer and Oz just ran away with it. I think over the 2 rounds they shot a combined minus 33, something like that. It was bonkers, but it was a ton of fun. The Tyendega course, I had never been there before, and it was super fun. Definitely am going to try and get out there a little more during the winter, as it is a winter only course. But it was a lot of fun, and I got to see the Arkells recently, which was a lot of fun. They're one of my favorite bands. I've seen them once before in concert, but this time I was down in general admission on the floor, so I was able to get pretty close up to the stage, which was awesome. So, and today we're recording on December 16th. So earlier today I went out and I played my first round of the season at King's Forest. Just felt so good to finally be back out at that course now that it's open, and it was a great day to do it too. It was like 8 degrees out. I went out before all the rain came. I think it's still raining right now, actually, where I am.
Did you end up playing?
I played the whites, the mid tees on the course. Didn't want to go out there and like really challenge myself with golds today. I just wanted to go out and have some fun. Ran into my buddy Mark Cronsberry on the course, and he joined in for a couple holes, as well as another guy, Note Dalton, was out there. So it was super fun. And I somehow managed to shoot a 7 under, not bad score from whites, while putting 33% from C1X.
That's crap.
Yeah, terrible. I made
Awful.
2 putts from C1X. I think it was like 2 for 7 or maybe 2 for 8. Because all my birdies were basically were parked, or the 2 that I hit that were C2 jump putts. I hit as many C2 putts as I hit C1X putts, which is never something that you want out on the course. So, but it was fun. I mean, I've said it on this podcast before that Kings Forest is without a doubt in my top 5 of courses in Ontario, and it's only a winter course. So every time I get to go back out there for the first time, it's a nice special feeling, which is where I was today. And Shawnee G, if there's nothing else for you, we're going to move on to a little bit of Ontario news. And I see, Sean, you put a little general news in here. A note for all tournament directors. The ODSA wants your 2025 tournament dates by December 31st, so they can release the event calendar, which will likely happen on January 1st. I did see Chris O'Zollin's post about this the other day. So if you're a tournament director running a tournament in 2025 in Ontario, make sure you have your date submitted so it can properly go on the Ontario calendar, and people can start to plan out their season, which there are some stuff coming up on disc golf scene already, but I think you are going to touch on that a little bit with some upcoming registration talk.
Absolutely. We're at the end of this. Now we're again, I've said this like 3 or 4 episodes. We're near the end of the season. We're actually finally near the end of the season. And there are only 3 tournaments on Ontario that you can currently still sign up for. The first is Winter Wizards, an unsanctioned event at Niagara-on-the-Lake at the Ace Place there. That's taking place on January 4th. And then there are 2 events on January 11th. There is the Ice Bowl up in Sudbury. And I mean, Sudbury Ice Bowl, appropriately named. That's going to be a blast. And then there is the Beaches Glow tournament, also going on January 11th. I don't think you're going to be able to play both of those unless you are a very irresponsible driver. But sign up for either one of those. They both look like it's going to be a lot of fun. I like that these are at least the Winter Wizards and Beaches Glow are on short courses. Winter is a great time to play little short courses and not really tax your arm too much. And these events are going to be a lot of fun for that. And as you mentioned, we're starting to see some 2025 tournaments start popping up on disc golf scene. I think I've seen in there Dreammaker pop up and the Kings Forest Open and
White Spruce Open, Wichita Early Bird.
Yep. So definitely you got to start refreshing now. Start following those tournaments so you get that registration reminder. Because if 2025 is anything like 2024, we're going to be selling out tournaments really quickly again. And you don't want to miss any of the amazing events that our tournament directors are graciously putting on for us.
You certainly don't want to miss any of that. It is a crucial step to go in on disc golf scene and follow the tournaments that you think you might want to play. You will get email, well, depending on how you have your disc golf scene preferences set up, at least the way that I do, I will get emails about, comments that are posted on that tournament. So if the TD posts anything important, I can see that. But more importantly, you'll get a 24-hour notification of registration opening. So once registration is actually set to open, if you forget about it, you'll get an email 24 hours before reminding you, which has saved me a few times of tournaments that I wasn't really thinking of. And I'll usually do it right then, where I'll then go in and already turn on my alarm for the following day, so that it's set to, 5 minutes before registration opens, so I can make sure I'm on my browser and ready to hit checkout like I'm a crazy concert goer. But that's just what we do for disc golf. And yes, it'll definitely be not every tournament sells out right away, but a lot of them sell out very quick. So if you're looking to play more tournaments in 2025, make sure you go and follow the ones that you want on Disc Golf Scene. And we are going to move on to just some general disc golf news, something that I wanted to bring up with you, Sean. Kevin and Stacy Kiefer, who are ranked 72 and 22 in the DGPT World Standings, respectively, both announced that they won't be touring in 2025 to, quote, settle down and start a new chapter in life, unquote. Do you think that we'll see more touring pros starting to take a step back from touring with the change and sort of disc golf recession, I guess you could call it, that we've seen this year, with purses not going up as much as in previous years, in some cases actually going down a little bit, and of course with just sponsorships in general changing a lot, coming out of the COVID boom that we had in disc golf, where disc golf companies were flush with cash and were just handing out decent, or not even decent, like good contracts left and right. Now that's obviously a change. So do you think we will start to see more touring pros starting to take a step back from actual touring?
Absolutely think that we will. I think we're in a bit of a market correction phase in professional disc golf. And you look at, Stacy, she's just that, she not quite top 20 player, but like she would bump into, in the 15s. I think she had some top 10 finishes on the Pro Tour last year. And then she was sort of, kicking around sort of the sort of low to mid 20s. And she won just over $11,000 in prize money in 2024. That's not a living wage, like I think for the players that aren't getting good sponsorships that are going to sort of allow them to really stay on tour, you're not going to be doing it from your prize money. Most of them, like it is not easy. First of all, it's getting harder and harder to cash, like to even get cash. And then when you do, like if you make $400 for a week, like that is not a lot of money. So we're going to see sponsorships being pulled back. It'll be interesting to see starting, probably like January 1st when announcements start rolling out. It'll be interesting to see how many pros just aren't getting deals, or are going to make a similar pullback to the Kiefers, because there just isn't the money in it. And it costs a lot of money to be a touring pro.
Oh yeah.
Right. Vans cost money, gas costs money. It's not getting cheaper to be on the road, and it's getting harder to compete on the road. I imagine we're going to see maybe more of an emergence of regional pros.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Where kind of like how Proctor used to be until a year or two ago. Like he was
Jefferson too.
Yeah, exactly. Proctor was like the West Coast guy. Yeah. And I think we will probably start seeing a little more of that. Where just to keep costs low, just stay within, a few state radius or whatever, and crank out A tiers and crank out Pro Tour events when they show up. It's going to be interesting to see how many players actually go to Europe this year. That is, a month and a half or whatever it is in Europe is not cheap. And the risk of going all the way to Europe, playing a bunch of events and coming home with no cash, like not having cash at a single event, that's a real risk. And you got to have a fat bank account behind you, on your way to be able to even consider that. And I don't see the disc golf companies going to be in a position to do that for a 40th ranked player, or there's a lot below 40.
Yeah. I think the thing with Europe, we'll still see a lot of pros go over there, because there were a lot of pros that didn't go over this year in preparation for going over next year, because they knew that it was going to be Worlds. Of course, the top players are still going to go over there no matter what. It's also interesting because one of the points that you made about, not being able to just live off of your prize winnings, that you have to have a salary to go on top of that. But it's interesting because the players that are making the money that they could, live off of just prize money are the top tier players that are also getting the top contracts to go along with that. So not only are they getting a lot of prize money, but then they might be making 250, 500. Then there's the 2-3 players in the world that are making $1 million a year just in salary from a company, and that obviously is not happening for the lower tier players. I think one of the things that we're going to see a lot more of, and it was interesting going through our podium picks over the last episode, and then what we're going to have coming up in this episode of free agent players. There are so many players that are on expiring contracts that are ending in 2024. And I think there's going to be a lot of players that are going to have open bag setups that are, like you said, I also agree that we're probably going to see a lot more regional pros, players that just stick to their one region. And then when the Pro Tour comes through, they're able to go out and play in those events. But then in other times, they're just playing local A tiers and stuff like that to make their money. And I think a lot of those players are going to start to have open bag setups, as they're not with any particular manufacturer, but we'll also still have, there's still a lot of local brands, local retail shops, or, a local disc dyer, a local company that makes handbags, like dry sack type things. There'll be lots of companies like that still have sponsorships with players, and it always makes me laugh when a player's thanking their sponsors, and there's 7 of them that they have to thank. They got a dry bag sponsor, a bag sponsor, a disc sponsor, a t-shirt sponsor. There's sponsors for everything. And I think we're going to see more of that, which will be
get a hassle.
I totally agree with that. And I think it'll be slightly humorous to see a lot of players on coverage that just have what looks like a NASCAR livery on the cars, just covered in different logos. That's going to be some players on tour, as they have to rep multiple companies and not just one main company. But it's certainly an interesting spot in the sport. I am very excited to see what contracts are and aren't signed in the off season, or I guess come January 1st, we're pretty much in the off season now.
And it's also not helping when, I was watching a Drew Gibson video, and he mentioned that
another player taking a step back.
Yeah, absolutely. That the Pro Tour isn't even paying out the prize money as quickly as they're supposed to, or that they should. He mentioned that there are still players who played at the Pro Tour Championships, an invitational. You had to qualify to be there, and they haven't been paid yet for their winnings. That's That's ridiculous. I'm curious what the Pro Tour is going to look like in 3 years. Will it be able to, because it needs it in order to, like right now it's basically just losing money, and or appears to basically just be losing money with every event. And without the influx of some big cash, I'm curious how long Todd Rainwater is going to keep funding this thing.
Yeah, I think the last time I heard an interview with Todd Rainwater would have been, I guess, the last time he was on the Upshot, probably talking to Charlie Eisenhood over there. I think they're heading towards breaking even, but that was also probably a full year ago. And this season in disc golf, we've just seen that the money is not there as much anymore. There's not as many discs are being sold. Tournament purses were down. There weren't as many people out at events watching events. So definitely interesting. The one thing I think is that I do believe that DGN subscriptions are still doing fairly well. Yeah. Which is probably the biggest like income resource that the Pro Tour has. I would assume that that's how the large percentage of their money is made, other than, of course, outside contributions like having a major investor like Todd Rainwater. So yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see where the Pro Tour goes and how it keeps, because it saw so much momentum going through the COVID boom of disc golf, and then coming out of the pandemic when people were finally out again, tournaments were being run. There's just this massive influx of people that were now interested in disc golf. And I think it's a combination of, one, there are people that, got into it and have now just sort of fallen out of it a little bit. It was just a little bit of a fad. And two, I think that a lot of the major influx in money into the sport in that time was new players getting in, buying all of these discs that they thought they had to try out. And now those players have, yes, there are the ones like you, Sean, that will continue to buy discs no matter what, and will fill up a shelf with lots of discs. There's actually, it's hard to see in the angle I'm in, but you can see right there in my, for anyone watching on YouTube, all of our audio only listeners will be like, what the hell are these guys talking about? But I've got a shelf there too with a bunch of discs. But a lot of the players that came in the COVID boom now have an entire collection of discs. They have their bag set up. They're not experimenting with new discs as much. They're just replacing ones when they lose it, and they're not having to buy discs as much. So I think that's also a big factor in it. It'll be definitely interesting to see where the Pro Tour goes in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. Hopefully it still exists.
Oh yeah. It's interesting. I don't know, because it's got enough of a foundation already, but does it go back to, and of course then the national tour was around before that and is now just kind of incorporated. Those first couple of years it was actually Pro Tour and national tour. They were different things, and now it's just basically one Pro Tour. So it'll be interesting to see. There's also, I don't have enough notes on this to really have an in-depth discussion of it now, but there's also the news that GK Pro is rebranding themselves to Go Throw, and are starting basically a
complimentary.
I wouldn't even say complimentary, because it sounds like they're trying to, be a rival. They're working, at least because I haven't read much of this. I've just, from what I've heard on other podcasts. So if any of this is wrong, I'm sorry. But from what I hear so far is that it's going to be, on off weekends of the Pro Tour. They're kind of even following the Pro Tour a little bit in some aspects, but they're also labeling it as a $20,000, like $50,000 purse, $20,000 to the winner, which is an extremely high payout. So if that can convince more pros to, play in those events, even if it is on off weekends where it's not conflicting with them competing in a Pro Tour event, I wonder how that would do for tickets if a lot of players are going to play in an event on this tour. Do people then start to, not go to Pro Tour stuff as much and go there? It would all depend on geography, of course. But if you can go to this, this other tour, they have a stop that's a little bit closer to you, let's say in Texas or something. While the Texas swing of the Pro Tour is coming through, I can definitely see a lot of people be like, well, I'm not going to drive as far to go to Waco and see, the Pro Tour Waco event when I can see this other tour here, and they might have the same amount of top pros anyways. So that'll definitely be interesting to keep an eye on.
My hunch is that the top pros are going to play the Pro Tour. They may also fit in some of these other ones because they want the Pro Tour points to qualify for the Pro Tour Championship and to be the points leader at the end of the year and raise that trophy up at Maple Hill. But there may be an opportunity for more regional pros and some, maybe the 20th ranked player instead of, the top 5 go to this thing. I don't know. It's an experiment. There's some great courses, Kayak Point, I think, and Eagles Crossing and some others. It's like stuff that's not on the Pro Tour that I think would be awesome to see. So who knows?
Absolutely agree with that. I just had another thought in my head, and now it just totally left my head. Totally gone. I'm wondering, and we'll see how it plays out, but I'm wondering if it gets to a point where the DGPT does something like the PGA did when Live Golf was first becoming a thing, and they basically said that if you are playing on the Live Tour, you're not playing on the PGA Tour, and basically made you pick between the two. I wonder if they could get to a point where it says, if you are a DGPT tour card holder, you can't play on another tour or something like that, and then players start to have to choose. It would be interesting to see.
So it's my understanding that language was actually already in the agreement for tour card holders, like this year, but from next year they have removed it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's so. I had a similar thought, and I saw a podcast. I forget which one. Maybe it was Drew. Drew mentioned it as well. That language used to be in the contract for the tour card, and it has now been removed because it was causing a lot of confusion or something to that effect.
Probably something to do with because this new tour that we're talking about this news has only come out super recently, but something that's been going on for the past. I know it happened last year. It may have happened the year before, and this year they've picked up a few more players too. Is the Tour Down Under, where they go down to it's through New Zealand, right? And Corey Ellis was there last year. Juliana Korver was there last year. I think this year it was announced that Holland Hanley is going to be going down and playing in those events. Cool. So it could be something to do with the confusion in that, because it's labeled as the Tour Down Under. They literally have tour in the name. So if there was confusion on that, I don't think it would be anything to do with this new tour that's been announced, but that's something that could play a factor into that as well. I think that wording's not there.
I think also the fact that the tour is going to Europe for a month and a half or however long it is, like it would be a pretty dick move if the tour was like, oh, you can't afford to come to Europe. Well, you also can't play anything back home.
Yeah.
Like, no.
And we see pros play like other A tiers and stuff like that constantly through the years. So
absolutely.
I think the big thing would be about competing on another quote unquote tour, but we'll have to see how that.
I don't think disc golf is big enough to actually have any sort of restrictions, especially for a player that week in, week out is making $300 or a $200 purse. Like this, the people that are barely cashing, like the people who are barely cashing on the PGA Tour are still making hella bucks.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So not only in sponsorship dollars, but just like, you finish last cash at a PGA event and you're still making $18,000.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, maybe that person can have some moderate restrictions placed on their
Yeah.
on their tour affiliation, but not disc golf. People who are playing for gas money to the next stop.
Legit. I think that's what a lot of people are doing, living stop to stop.
Yep.
Also in the news, in the last 2 weeks, Will Schustrick has been promoted to Prodigy CEO. Definitely. I mean, I don't know exactly who the CEO was before or anything like that. I'm not really big on the business side of disc golf, but certainly, I think a deserved promotion. I mean, when I think of Prodigy, I still think of Will Schustrick. When I was first getting into, well, I guess Schustrick and Cale LaVisca, because when I was first getting into disc golf, one of the first discs that I truly fell in love with was the Prodigy M4. Just an absolutely money disc. And I remember it was because Cale LaVisca was throwing a lot. And when I first started to get into actually watching the Pro Tour, or Pro Tour, National Tour, whatever was the professional scene at that time, Will Schustrick wasn't really competing anymore. He had won his U.S. titles already, and I think was dealing with injuries and stuff. So I didn't know him really as a player. But as I've learned more about, the history of disc golf and the time in disc golf before I was really watching, Will Schustrick is somebody that a lot of people looked at as like their favorite pro when they were getting in that era. It'll be interesting to me to see, does a move like this for Prodigy, obviously for players like myself or anybody that's been in the game for a little while knows who Will Schustrick is, but so much of the sport, so many times I ask people, when did you start playing? 2021. That's so many people. And a lot of those people probably don't really know who Will Schustrick is. So it'll be interesting to see what this kind of does for Prodigy. But I think obviously Will is incredibly invested in Prodigy as a brand, always has been. I think he's been with them since the beginning when they first became a brand in like the early 2010s. So definitely fitting to see that. I think I really think it'll be, what can he do to not only, I know that they've been working on fixing the flashing and like the chalkiness that the disc gets if it sits for a while, but they haven't really done anything to show that they've been working on that. So I think that's something that maybe will start to, market a little bit more of.
I hope so. I bag 3 or 4 Prodigy discs. I like their drivers a lot.
Prodigy.
Yeah, I really like their drivers. I know that they used to have flashing issues. I haven't seen really bad flashing in the last year or two. So I think they've gotten that under control.
I got one recently in a player's pack that felt like it was going to shave the skin off of my finger if I tried to throw it. But yeah, it definitely happens less now.
Yeah. So hopefully he can, he can set a solid direction for Prodigy. Like I said, I really like their discs. They make some absolute legendary discs, and it'll be interesting to see for me what he does with the pro team, because Prodigy seems to be a sort of a good company that likes to invest in early to maybe mid-career players, and then you outgrow them, and they seem fine with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a solid strategy. Like, don't put all your eggs in the Kevin Jones basket, and let it spread out a little bit more and get more players who are, really good players, but maybe aren't, if you win a world title or you win 2 world titles, you're probably moving on from Prodigy. I don't think that is an unreasonable business strategy and sort of team management strategy. Sort of bang for the buck, as opposed to
for me, we talked about it a little bit in I think it was in the rapid fire questions in our interview with Stuart McKissick, and him and I were chatting. We're both F1 fans, and that reminds me a lot about F1, like a driver coming into one of the lower teams. They initially sign with an Alpine or a Haas, And once they show that they are capable, they eventually work their way up to, the Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, and they start competing with the top teams. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I agree with you. Prodigy has some of the best molds like in the game. The PA3 is an incredible putter. Like I said, the M4, M3 are just so good mid-range. Their mid-range lineup is incredible. And I know you love their
I love the G for Stabwares
drivers. Air and like F7s and stuff. The flippier the best. F9. Jeez Louise.
PA5, like amazing flippy putter. Like, yeah, they fantastic discs. I don't think they get the credit that they deserve for the discs that they do. And maybe fix the baskets.
Yes, the baskets definitely need work. I actually just Joe Mez the other day put up their top no mezzes of the year, and I'm like, how many of these are on Prodigy baskets? There are so many. No, definitely not all of them. And also, it felt like 50% of the no mezzes from the year were from Gannonburg.
Yeah, I could see that.
Which I mean is one, because he's just on coverage so damn much.
Yep.
But two, the guy putts 100 miles an hour. And sometimes the baskets don't like that. Isaac Robinson was also on a lot of, he got some nasty no mezzes and straight out yelled, "These baskets suck," at a Prodigy basket at a tournament this year, which made me laugh.
Inspired me to do the how does Isaac putt statistics. And we found that he putts better on Prodigy baskets than he does on all the other baskets.
Well, and Prodigy baskets won't be on the tour next year because all baskets that they did that whole basket testing, well, unless something's changed in this, but my understanding was that the basket testing that they did at the Pro Tour Championships was to determine the baskets that were going to be on tour going forward, and Prodigy didn't even submit their basket to the test. So
they're doing basket testing. The ones that were at the Pro Tour Championship were not all of the baskets that were under consideration. There were some new designs and some like ones from like Gateway and stuff like that. But I don't know that this is going to be for the standard for the 2025 season. I'm not sure. I think that they're going to take the time to test and develop and set a standard and, really consult with the pro community. And I don't know, maybe 2026. I don't know. But I would be surprised if they've done enough testing and figured out what the standard actually should be, or how do we even measure what a good basket standard is in time for a 2025 season. I mean, the season's 2 months away.
Yeah. I mean, the Pro Tour Championship was like 2 months ago. Yeah. Now at this point, I thought that that's what the plan was from that testing at the Pro Tour Championship, but could be wrong there. But one thing that we definitely know is that we need to absolutely get veterans off the tour, because those are the worst baskets on planet Earth. 100%. Next up in the news, Shawnee G, it looks like you got something in there that you wanted to touch on real quick.
Sorry, I was just looking up the answer to the basket testing thing. I didn't get it quite quick enough. Yeah, so I noticed. So I saw this announcement from Steve Dodge that there was something called the Future of Disc Golf, and there's like futurediscgolf.com. I was like, what? And there's like a bunch of like course names, and I think a couple manufacturers and Pulse A training, and like, what the heck is this thing? And so they had a press conference. It had a couple technical glitches. They probably should have pre-recorded it and just released it, but nonetheless. And so apparently what Future Disc Golf is, it is going to be a series of junior only qualifying events, including the Maple Hill Open in like June or July or something like that of 2025. And that will culminate in the Future Disc Golf festival and camp in August in the Åland Islands in Finland, where I guess they will crown the future disc golf junior world champion or something. I don't know what it is. What the details are not plentiful at this time, but I assume they will sort of start trickling out as they make the announcements. But I kind of see it as like, like a junior pro tour without the pro, but like a series of events around that get you points and you qualify, and then you can qualify for this championship in Finland. That will also have like a juniors camp with, I don't know, disc golf camp or something. Anyway, it's good. Like, we need to grow the sport from the bottom up. And that's AMs, that's juniors. And this seems to be a bit of an investment in that. Reminds me of our local Nico's Drive series of tournaments. Who knows? Maybe they're reaching out to this future disc golf thing and seeing if they could be part of it. I mean, I would if I was Nico and Carl. It could be pretty cool. Again, details are a little thin on the ground right now, but definitely something that I think we're going to keep watching for. And who knows, maybe there's an opportunity for some of our great junior players in the province to get involved in this. And who knows, maybe qualify for, the championships in Finland in August. How sick would that be?
That would be insane. Åland Islands is just 100% a bucket list place for any disc golfers. It's like literally like the Disc Golf Islands, I think, is like what its nickname is, and it's all disc golf across the entire island. So 100% would be super cool to go out there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Keep some eyes on more details for this coming out. There are so many talented junior players out there that they could benefit from this. Not only from, if there's anything to do with like, I don't know if they'd be able to actually make money as juniors, unless they're playing unless they're already pro. Actually, I don't know. If you're like 17 years old and you take cash, are you ineligible from junior events too, or just from amateur events? I don't even know. I don't know either. I didn't start competing in tournaments until I was well past the junior eligibility.
Yeah, I mean, I think junior divisions are all AM divisions.
That's what I would assume too. So if you took cash, you couldn't do junior anymore either. That would be my assumption. It'll be interesting to see. And hopefully we can see some Canadian and Ontario representation in some sort of way on this. I know recently Alistair Robertson has been posting highlights from his 999 rated round at Ontario Provincials, where he ran away with that division. 999, and I believe he is 11 years old.
Amazing.
Or somewhere in that range, 10 to 12, somewhere in there. It's just absurd. I don't think I've ever been more jealous of somebody's putting skills than I am of Alistair, and he's, like I said, he's 11 years old. His putting is so good. I can't even understand it.
Oh, to answer the question about the baskets, the Pro Tour is going to be testing them through the first half of 2025, and the results will be integrated into the bidding process for events in 2026.
Oh, a bidding process. Okay.
Yeah, like when you say, I want to host this event, we have this basket from the approved list, presumably.
Yeah, it'll be like whenever they have the DD open, it'll be like, no, you are not allowed to use veteran baskets. 100%.
That'll be interesting. It'll be like I think it was Music City Open, where they had like Innova baskets, and they just painted the rim black.
Yeah, Innova was. I do remember hearing about that. That's one thing I've never understood is why not just like standardize one basket for the entire tour and then just like put different band markings on it. Like so many times I see custom logos that go on, like Daryl at Hope Goat has like, all different wraps on them, and he'll even change them for tournaments. I think he had new ones go on just before the rip. So I don't know why they couldn't just standardize a basket, make it all the same so that everybody is always putting on the same thing. And then just if it's a tournament, if a different manufacturer, different brand is the main sponsor of that tournament and they want their logo on the basket, just put a wrap on it. Seems simple to me, but I don't know.
I imagine the manufacturers they would have a pretty big issue with that.
But I think they just want their logo to be seen. I mean,
they want to sell more baskets to local courses.
Yes, but like from looking at like from Prodigy or from DD with the Prodigy baskets or the veteran baskets, I think it almost hurts that attempt more, showing off your baskets on the Pro Tour, because now they just have a reputation of like anytime I play a casual round and it's on a course with Prodigy baskets and somebody it might not even be a spit out, it might be just a legitimate miss, and then the first thing will be like, oh, I just got Prodigy'd. It's like it's becoming synonymous with Prodigy baskets.
I blame Prodigy baskets for my putting, even when I'm putting on Innova baskets.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's a built-in excuse.
Yeah. 100%. Ooh, idea for a future podium picks that we were talking about earlier. But yeah, that'll definitely be interesting to see where that goes. Anything else from you, Shawnee G, on general news? All right. Well, then we are going to move on to our very last, unless there are any more surprise additions to the tournament schedule, which you never know. At this point, I'd be pretty surprised, but you never know. We officially reached the end of sanctioned tournament season in Ontario with the Frosty Goat, which had one round of singles play that was sanctioned, followed by a round of random doubles to end the day with a bit of fun. In total, there were 41 people braving the snow and cold at Hope Goat. And in the blue division, it was Garrett Morgan taking down Chris Beatty by one stroke in that division. I believe they were the only two in that division. And that was, of course, I think people know from me saying blue division, this was one of those ratings-based tournaments. So you're in a color division based on your rating. Garrett gets the one-stroke win in the top blue division. Jeremy, I think it's Rudy, is how you pronounce his last name. I could be wrong. Jeremy Rode beat Adam Hussey by 2 strokes in the white division. Vern Lapine beat Lucas Carmona by 1 stroke in the red division. I think you're seeing a theme here. These were very close battles in these divisions. Darren Anderson ties with Dan Belanger in the green division. Not sure if there was a playoff. Both are listed as finishing first. Usually if there's a playoff, it'll have one as 1 and 1 as 2. So I think that one just ended in a tie. And Owen Masterson beat Trevor Wybenga by 1 stroke in the purple division. And then in the afternoon, during that doubles event, Brent Jackson and Dave Pettypiece beat Adam Galland and Garrett Morgan in a playoff. Not sure exactly how many holes. Doesn't show us that in the results. That would be cool though. And in the other division, there were 2 divisions for doubles. In the other division, Matthew Huff and Jed Henley beat Daniel Gamble and David Sutherland, and Christina Prince and Darren Anderson in another playoff with another 6 teams, only 1 stroke behind them. So he could have had a 9-team playoff if those other teams could just get one shot better, which is absolutely wild. A 3-person playoff already is wild. It's not something you see all that often. Shawnee G, any thoughts from you on the Frosty Goat?
Gotta love a tight competition tournament, and this is probably one of the tightest tournaments that we've seen in a while.
Yeah, the largest victory was 2 strokes.
Yeah, and only in a single division.
Yeah,
and certainly when it came to the doubles, like I've never seen that many clustered up at the top. Absolutely hilarious. I'm curious what the payout looked like for 3rd place.
Yeah.
Here you go. It is $1.50. Enjoy.
Yeah.
It's such a cool. I like this singles doubles mix. It looks like there's a little bit of snow on the ground at the goat from the photos that I've seen. So it's proper winter tournament, not like last year around this time where there wasn't a flake on the ground.
To that with all this warmth and rain that we're getting right now, at least in southern Ontario. I'm sure the Humses in Sudbury are not appreciating our talk of snow melting, because I don't think they're getting the same effect up in Sudbury.
Probably a lot less so, yeah. Absolutely good on all the players. 41 players who showed up and played the event. Great way to end the sanctioned Ontario season. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes up at the GOAT next year, especially like the Ripon Nationals. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, Nationals there is going to be incredible. I already cannot wait for that. And you just know that Daryl is going to have lots of tournaments again next year. I believe he TD'd 6 different tournaments this year, all of which I have them written down in my notes that I'm doing for the Missed Mando Awards, but I believe they were all at Hope Goat, so it should have lots hosted there as well next year, and I will definitely be trying to make it out as much as I can. And if that's everything that we've got here from our recap, we can throw it on over to our featured interview for today, and we are extremely excited to bring you an interview with the one, the only Mr. Bazooka, Albert Tamm. I am very sad that I had to miss out on this one. So if you don't want to listen to an interview without me in it, skip ahead a little bit. No, I'm kidding. You definitely want to listen to this interview. It is a fantastic interview that both Sean and Galen did. 100% a great listen. So without further ado, Mr. Albert Tamm.
Our next guest burst onto the international disc golf scene with a breakout performance at the 2019 European Open, where he finished 3rd and showed off his trademark bazooka celebration in front of the cameras. He's a 5-time Estonian national champion and has reached as high as 19th in the PDGA World Standings. Most recently, he helped Team Estonia claim the gold medal with a dominating performance at the WIFDIF World Team Championships in Australia. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome to the Missed Mando podcast, the Bazooka, Albert Tamm. Welcome to the show, Albert.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Let's start off with the famous bazooka celebration, which has had a few iterations, I think. Maybe a bow and arrow and a grenade toss. Where did that celebration originate, and how do you decide when it's time to really break it out?
So yeah, during 2019 European Open, I was playing really good, and so I was in front of the gallery for most of the time, and I was looking like overall how we as athletes, like, kind of like, for example, we make a putt, just a wave, and like I felt like, man, that's kind of like mainstream, it's like kind of same thing every time. And then so it was the first, I think, so I had some like small thoughts about it already going into the week, and then before the 3rd round, I think that was like when I kind of like I was like really brainstorming, okay, what will be like cool, and then didn't really reach any conclusions. And then so I went to play the 3rd round. I was at the in the chase card, and so we had already some sort of a gallery with us. And at hole 9, I was playing with Germ and some other groups as well, or guys as well. And then I had like a 50-meter putt for the birdie, and then I was like, I looked at the scenery surroundings, and I was like, okay, there's plenty of crowd to test it out. So I was like, okay, made a putt, and like at that point, it clicked to me, let's do a bazooka. Like I didn't have any previous thought about bazooka. And then I made the putt, did the celebration, and like it really like it worked the way I expected. Like it was like something new and people were excited. And also like Jordan gave me also really good positive feedback for it. And then I managed to get myself to the lead card, same hole, pretty much the same putt. And I was like, stars are aligned. Yeah. And everything after that, like I couldn't see it that far into the future, but I just kind of did what I felt was right in the moment.
I think it worked, and I think it helped helps of establish a bit of a brand, like Ricky with his raptor legs, and Bazooka Tom has like a nice flow, a nice little ring to it.
Yeah, I gotta actually give a lot of credit to Garrett Gertie for that phrasing, because I think he was the first guy who pointed out to me like, hey, Bazooka Tom, it has like a nice ring to it. And kind of like I don't know, kind of like playing it with in my head. I was like, yeah, it works really well. And I didn't have any conflicts with it for myself.
And for Americans, they'll know the old candy Bazooka Joe, crap candy. That had a garbage cartoon in each little piece. So yeah, that I think it definitely will certainly resonate on the Pro Tour, and I definitely think that it has.
Yeah, I do have a small stack of those gums in the RV.
I'm sure they're just as fresh as the day they were made in 1963.
Yeah, definitely a long history of the bazooka as an icon. Has anybody ever had you like sign a bazooka candy wrapper or anything interesting bazooka themed? Wasn't it a prep? Just curious now that we're talking about it.
I've definitely signed some interesting things, but not like bazooka specific, I think. I've been gifted the bazooka, but like not from
Sorry, what now?
From a tournament. It was like a Christmas present I got.
That's crazy. I got to imagine a non-functional bazooka. Okay, going around shooting on.
Yeah, how to sound it? Used bazooka. So yeah, it fired its shot.
And I'm familiar with the Estonian weaponry laws, but I'm presuming that the casual ownership of bazookas is functioning bazookas is probably not looked well upon.
Yeah, I've been able to stay on the radar for a while, so I like it that way.
Good, I dig it. Well, the good news is that we've only got like 400 or 500 followers, so you're good. You're good. So we took it back to the origin of the celebration. Let's take it back to the origin of you as a member of the PDGA, which was back in 2015. You joined as a junior and started playing MPO in the same season. How old were you when you first started, and what led to that jump to MPO right from the start? Was it just you were at that level already, or was there anything else that went into the decision?
So I think I was like 16 or 17. I started like 2014 autumn. So yeah, I was like in that kind of age group. And I got into the sport more like 2015 spring, started to play more weeklies and stuff. But disc golf at that time in Estonia was like really small. So pretty much, for example, there weren't any juniors overall that much, and also events that had junior categories. So pretty much if you wanted to play, you played MPO or FPO. We didn't. Right now we have amateur scene because we have so much people playing it. But back in the day, we just had enough that like separating everybody into different categories didn't make much sense. So you can see it from a lot of people who started like, I would say maybe 2017 and earlier. Not a lot of them don't have this amateur experience before they started out. That pretty much if they want to play like a PDG event, they had to play MPO.
Sorry about that. My mic was muted there. So how many, when you first started, how many players would you say you'd be typically going up against? You said it wasn't a pretty big scene in Estonia.
Like talking about juniors, I think if we got 10 juniors at like nationals, I would say nationals were the like only some of the few events where we had like special junior division. and I would say like 10 was like really good. MPO, I would say you can like 50 or 60, kind of you can scrap it together.
Still solid.
Yeah.
Was it like usually like sort of the same guys week to week? Was that like a good chunk of the Estonian sort of MPO scene back then?
Yeah, I think because there weren't a lot of variations between events too. Like, so you had pretty much all the same events year to year, and maybe in the past 5 years we have gotten like a lot of variety when it comes to competition, so people can choose whatever you want to play. But back then, if you wanted to play it, there was only kind of like this one thing you kind of can choose from. So the competitors were pretty much the same every weekend.
Yeah, and now, of course, you're playing at a totally different level. You know, you've been on tour full time the last 3 seasons. That's a lot of travel just for Americans. How do you make it work coming over from Europe? Are you doing the van life? Are you sharing an Airbnb with some some folks from Europe or a consistent crew? There's got to be visas involved. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of moving parts. How do you find that process of being on tour full time and especially traveling across the States?
So yeah, I have a athlete visa. That's the reason why I kind of can play the tour full time. And whenever I first came to US with the visa, then I already had a plan that I'm gonna go with that van life type of thing, because I had experienced the Airbnb life beforehand, and so I kind of knew if I'm doing this here full time, I need at least one place by the end of the day that is the same every day. Like, because we're traveling so much, and like that's a thing that's important to me. And I ended up choosing an RV, like a small Class C, because it was the best when it came to, for example, price point, and also keeping in mind the time frame I had. Because like usually vans, the best way to do it is you build it out yourself. But like I was already on tour when I was figuring out how I will get the van, and I was like, okay, this is like the best way to do it. So this has been my style for this past 3 years, and over years, like I made some upgrades to the RV, like some better systems in the mix, and also I have added a tow car last year, which makes the day-to-day driving a lot easier. And I have a super small tow car, like Chevy Spark, so it doesn't really affect the mileage on the highway either. So it's like, but in the city, it makes a great difference compared to RV, just doing daily chores with, it's like, I don't know, maybe even 3 to 4 times difference. And mostly I kind of travel alone, but every once in a while I have a companion with me in the RV, but most of the time alone. And I do rely on a lot of hosts. So I kind of like do that type of thing.
How do you find like hosts? Is there a network of people that are sort of well known on the tour as you can crash at this person's house or whatever?
So I think networking is maybe comes from mostly from me, from like face-to-face interactions and like just building connections. And it has taken me like those 3 years to actually build like a solid foundation of connections on the tour. And like some places I don't have hosts. That's okay also for me. But I have built up. I stay in the van too whenever I'm with the host, but like I just park outside their place. But I would say in the beginning, I got a lot of help from Ricky and his previous manager Ari. Like they helped me like start building this. I would say my own connection of hosts around the tour. And now over the years, I've started to also like I sort of know how the process goes, so I have a little bit of know-how how to approach it. And I've over the years, you just meet people. With some, you kick it off better than with the others, and like that's kind of how it goes.
And so you own your own van, and you just store it somewhere in the States?
Yes, I own my own RV, and right now I've been storing it in Florida for the last few years at the same site. Yeah.
That's perfect, especially given the start of the season starting in Florida.
Yeah, and I really like Florida for the off season too.
Do you have much of an off season? Because I think you pop back over stateside in like January usually, I think, and then you're just like tournament until basically the end of the season.
I like to leave myself some off season period. Like I would say this year, the period is way shorter compared to other ones, but usually it has been that I have I would say 2 weeks of off, not 2 weeks, 2 months of off season back over in Europe, and then in January, like a month or maybe a bit more, I travel over to the States, and that's what I call my preseason. That's where I get maybe more into like playing the courses and like getting into this season group, and then it's like season. But this year, because of the off season, is gonna be really short. I'm probably gonna extend my like training a bit today into the season to like being ready for the first major.
And what does that off season look like for you? I mean, we've sort of covered how much space there is and where you might be in the world, but do you do a lot of training? Is it a lot of practice? Do you step away from disc golf for a little bit? What do those two not weeks but 2 months look like on your end?
The main difference probably is like the physical part. So I do a bit more in the gym, and for example, on the tour, maybe I do once or twice a week, but during the off season, I do minimum 3 to 4 times. And then, just the physical training is a bit more intense. And I would say throwing wise, it's like perhaps just going through the reps or keeping the load so the body doesn't get used to throwing. And then whenever I jump back into the Florida and start throwing rapidly, a lot then high chance of injury. So keeping the load sort of like a baseline, so I'm maintaining this off season. So that has been maybe the thing for the past 3 to 4 years. Now this year, actually, I just came from Finland, so I'm gonna start working with a Finnish coach, Jonas, and so this off season will be different in many aspects, and I can tell probably better next year.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And, obviously, to any listeners that are paying attention, you're an athletic guy. You can really crank a disc out there. Do you have any favorite exercises that you do in the gym that help you feel either with your distance specifically or your overall game? You'd recommend to anybody who's not really doing any training in the gym to get better at disc golf?
There are a couple exercises that helped me to like figure out how legs work. But overall, if you've never been into the gym, just keeping it super basic, like squat, deadlift, bench presses, pull-ups, like it's actually crazy how big of a difference, like having good muscle condition, how it translates over to the throwing. And like, because like, for example, I think good technique is a base for throwing far, but when you add strength to the equation, it only makes sense to throw further. And also you can probably do a lot more throws too, because your body is able to tolerate it. And once you have reached like this, gone through this beginner phase in the gym, I would say that's when like adding a bit more these like disc golf specific things is gonna start helping more and more. You can already start doing them now, but I would say like maybe the biggest difference doesn't come that it doesn't have such a big effect right away. But for me, what helped me understand the hip process were like kettlebell swings, like atlas swings. I don't know how the other ones were named, but like maybe like side swings. But yeah, those were the ones that helped me like understand how to really engage hips into the throw.
Yeah, I'm picturing something that I used to call a wood chop when I was in the gym. That was a lot for abs, but almost like a swing across like that and strengthening those, obliques and engaging the hips, that sort of thing. But yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, if you want to be a good disc golf specific athlete in the gym, you have to build a foundation first. You can't just jump into, might not be as productive anyway to jump into disc golf specific exercises until you got the basics locked in. So that makes perfect sense. On a slightly different note, what were some goals you had for yourself for the 2024 season now that we're into the off season and wrapped up? And how do you feel the season went? Any favorite moments or highlights you'd want to look back on?
Great question. I was just thinking, did I write them down or no? Because I was going through my notes and I had, for example, one goal was to reach the rating over 1030, qualify for the Pro Tour Championship. What else? Win Worlds was one of them, and maybe win a Pro Tours event. I would say those were probably my goals. Overall, my season was quite hectic. I think what I reached. Did I reach anything? Yeah, that wise I didn't reach any of my goals. Oh, I know what was my goal. It was to develop my style of play. That was like different kind of goal for last year. And that was like something that I started to understood more and more as the season went. So I feel like that part I was on the right track, and so a lot of the changes didn't really showing the results right away. And yeah, as I said already, the season was pretty hectic. That I was going over the stats or like just looking at the PDJ and stuff. That I missed a lot of the cuts this year, which was really frustrating. I missed the cuts at Worlds. That hurt the most probably. And and like overall the consistency was really fluctuating.
Would you say developing your style of game, what do you see as your style of game? And do you find that you need to work on, like you mentioned that you missed some cuts this year. Do you work on sort of the mental side of the game, or is that doesn't faze you that much?
I think my style of play, I think honest answer, it depends by day. And I think, yeah, it's like, I don't really know other ways to answer it, because it can be sometimes I wake up, I'm like, man, I would rather be laying in bed, I'm not really feeling it today on the course. Then I have to adjust the playing strategy according to it. And otherwise, and some days I can be I wake up and I'm like, man, today I really want to push it. Then again, adjust the strategy to do this. And yeah, so I'd say that's probably my style. And it's hard to point the finger on it. And it can be hard to describe too, I feel, because I understand with my feel what is this, but everybody has to kind of feel it out for themselves, what is their type of play. What was the other part of your question?
The mental aspect of the game.
Are you
able to sort of compartmentalize the last tournament or the last throw or the last round and focus on sort of, the shot that you have in front of you?
Yeah, I would say working on the mental game, I kind of see this aspect of the game as life in overall. So I do have this sort of self-development process that I have daily ongoing. So I'm part of a Contriver group, which is this self-development school. And I do see that disc golf is not, disc golf mental game is not separate from overall life. So my approach to mental game is that like, if overall in life I'm able to functionate well, then that will apply over to disc golf as well. Because I think you can see probably from player to player that like, okay, today you can see that something on the course is different, and like that probably is from some other area of life. So I think if you're balanced in life, it will apply over to the course as well. And I think I'm doing better at letting go of the results. For example, if I have a bad weekend, just to take it as a feedback. And same with each throw, that like, it's not a good or bad throw, it's just feedback. If, I don't know, I made a decision, I got this result, cool. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Sometimes I can take it like, if I don't want this experience that I got from this shot, then I already know like what to do different next time. But this is sort of the approach I've taken. It's some days easier, sometimes harder, but that's kind of like my overall approach to this part.
I really like that. I really like that approach to the game. Changing gears. So you were, let's talk Australia. You were the 4th highest rated player at WIFDIF this year down in Perth. And that was after a long season on tour, like 30 events. What drives the decision to then jump onto the world team and go down to Australia and play some more? How did it feel playing for the country and not just sort of for yourself? Did this feel different, this win, compared to your past wins because you had the flag on?
This year was like, whatever the schedule came out, and I saw that the WIFDIF championships will be happening at the end of the season. Usually they've been overlapping, which is like direct conflict with the schedule. And this year was like, already I knew like I'm going right out of the way, like in January, because first of all, it's Australia, never been there, and I'm excited to be part of that process because the system is not stroke play but match play, and it's I don't know, a little bit different strategy, and also because you're playing with a team, you can kind of play around with matchups, and a whole bunch of strategy. So that was like my like expectations to them, and to get like just a little bit of, I don't know, fresh breeding into the disc golf. But what it turned out to be, I think it had probably is one of the most coolest events I've ever been to. A lot of it is contributes to the theme, because we're there as a team, so we win and lose together. And I think we had one of the greatest teams I ever experienced. Like, I would say the synergy was really there, and we had a lot of good time outside the course, same on the course, all the practice days. It was there was no I in the team, so it was really fun for me, thanks to that. And also probably because the location was also a bit exotic, so I think that contributes a lot to it. And one thing that probably surprised me the most was that after every matchup, we had this spirit of the game circle, which comes from Ultimate, and sort of you like kind of like wrap up the match. Like, that's how it works in my head. And perhaps there's another explanation, but that's how I took it. And sharing your thoughts and feelings after the match. Everybody has given their best. Like, one team won, the other one lost, but what that spirit of the game circle, that really gave me the feeling that, like, no matter what side by the end of the day won or lost, we were both there enjoying our time, enjoying the competitive aspect, that we're both giving our best, pushing each other to be better, and also enjoying the disc golf at the same time. So I think that had the biggest impact to me by the end of the. But like just looking back to the event, that's probably still something that I remember really vividly.
I love that aspect of it. Do you think you'll be going to the 2025 World Games? I assume that that Estonia is easily qualified for that. Do you know if because I think it's was it one pair of players per country, I think, going to a tournament in China?
Yeah, I think it's going to be mixed doubles events over there. So just all mixed doubles and one pair per country. I'm not sure if I'm going. It's going to be decided by the Estonian Disc Golf Association who goes. They have their own formulas and they have their own approach to decide who goes there. If I'm given the offer, really high chance that I'm going.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And how do you enjoy the match play format? I had a chance a couple years ago to play. We have a couple of sort of like local club events. There's the GTA Cup, the Greater Toronto Area Cup, the Southwestern Ontario SWO, we call it Cup. And it's a totally different format than playing a tournament as an individual. And you're right, there's some of these different calculated decisions about who's going to go up against who. In what way do you want to try to pair strengths or perhaps limit weaknesses when you're looking at a pretty mediocre amateur player like me of the players on a team? How did you enjoy that as a format, being part of a team and have that different aspect in your games you were playing?
I did like it a lot. Maybe one, because in the group stages we played 9 holes, and it's never really over in a way. For example, I take a 7 on hole 1, the other one takes a 3, I just lose 1 point. I'm not back 4 strokes. So there were like a lot of situations where like I felt like score wise I'm playing way better. Like the gap is like 10 strokes, but maybe the real score was like I was up by 2, and like on 9 holes, yes, that is like okay cap. But like on 18 holes, it's like nothing because that can change in 2 holes and like you're back to even. So I would say it kept the intensity up till the very last moment.
Yeah, it definitely allows things to be closer at times. Is this a format that you would be interested in seeing come to the tour in some fashion?
We did have those match play expedition games. I did like it, but I think we can make it more interesting.
For sure.
How would you change it to make it more interesting, do you think?
I don't really know, but like whenever I compare the 2 events right now, I would say the one we had in the US, like I don't know, it's not as exciting, I think.
Well, speaking of the tour, we obviously have an ever-changing landscape in our disc golf pro scene, including which I've really enjoyed a larger focus on Europe the last year, especially. Now that we're sort of seeing the evolution of the pro tour such as it is, do you see yourself continuing to tour in the same capacity that you have been in the United States? Will you spend a little bit more time in Europe, try to marry the two? Where are you at as the sort of location in which you can play high-level disc golf evolves in ways that it hasn't before?
So my goal for up to 2026 is to focus on the US tour because I had the visa, and like I've made myself a commitment to focus on the US tour until that point, and then I will see how it will change. Like after 2026, what will be the situation then? But right now, I feel that the level and like everything is sort of still there.
Yeah, still very very US focused. Do you see it getting to a point where the European tour could sort of stand on its own and then sort of come together at Worlds?
Yeah, that would be actually really cool to have it like sort of 2 separate tours, and then the grande finale will be at Worlds. Yeah, I don't really know right now because it's like right now there is this European tour and the US tour. I got kind of see it as this, that like the Euro tour is like the Euro Disc Golf Euro Pro Tour is like a jumping platform to the US tour, especially like Europeans, if like sort of it makes it a little bit easier that like you don't have to come to the US right away and try to get into the events. You can play the Euro Tour, Euro Pro Tour, like plays good. You will be granted access to full tour card, if I'm not wrong. And so I think there's like it's a good jumping platform right now.
It'll be interesting to see how that evolves this year. Certainly with Pro Tour spending so much time, like what, a month and a half or 2 months in Europe. That'll be super interesting to see. So you've been sponsored by Latitude 64 since 2016. I think you're signed with them through 2026.
Yeah.
If that's right. How do you think that partnership has helped your career? What are some of your sort of absolute must-have discs in the bag? And now that House of Discs owns 5 companies, are you allowed to look at Castaplast and Discmania now as well, or are you still primarily sort of Trilogy?
I would say that thanks to Latitude, I have reached the point that I'm now, that I'm able to tour full time. And maybe one thing that I feel that is crucial, that has been crucial with this partnership, is also is that it's really like it feels really personal connection with the sponsor. And how I came to the US was like that like it had already had been my goal to come to tour US full time for a while. And one year I found out like how I can do it. And I was like, I pitched the idea to Latitude. Hey, like these are the details. Like I'm willing to do all the work. I just need your support on this. And then we will get it done. And they were like, sure, let's do it. And I would say this is really valuable for me to have that, like I can bring forth my ideas and have this other person think with me, not like, they have their own agenda and like they're trying to force this through, but they're willing to like just hear other sides too and go with the flow.
Yeah, it feels like a true partnership what you're describing, which which isn't something that everybody can benefit from.
Yeah, and I would say over the years, I feel like right now my bag has been pretty fixed for the last few years. I used to have a tradition, but at the end of every season, I kind of gave away like at least 95% of my bag. But like for the last 3 years, I don't really want to do it anymore because everything is so fixed. And I found a lot of good discs that they're in a durable plastic. They have seasoned really well and they're holding their perfect play. But some staples in my bag are OptoX Ballista Pros, maybe more especially 2022 Glimmer OptoX ones. Then Orbit Trust has made into my bag pretty well too. Complements, like how I choose my team disc is also like, I want it to be a disc that actually complements my game also, that like it's actually a link that I'm missing in my bag. And perhaps something for putters. Shield has been there for a while. Did try something new 1 year, didn't really work out, went back to the Shield. I play around with plastics a little bit, like sometimes medium, sometimes hard. Right now it's back to hard. And fairways, I would say OptoX Explorer. That's like my staple fairway. And we are still Trilogy focused, that like we mostly throw Latitude, but like if we're unable to find something from Latitude lineup, then we can scout from DD or Westside to like fill that gap in the bag. but we are not allowed to use any other House of Discs companies.
Do you have a 2025 Tour Series disc picked out yet for next year?
Not yet, and I may. Right now, I'm not really sure either what it will be.
That's actually perfect. It's so funny. We have a document here that Sean and I use to take some notes and prepare for the questions we're going to ask you. You like perfectly answered the next question we were going to ask about how you select a Tour Series disc. We highlighted a few discs. You named like all of them. So we're on the same wavelength here, and I love it. Totally different note, changing gears here. We were coming up with some questions last night and wanted to ask you. I got caught up in a Reddit thread about, based on only looks, what people would assume various pro disc golfers did for a living if they didn't know that they were disc golfers. So somebody said Ricky Wysocki would be the director of a public pool. Eagle McMahon would be a brand ambassador for some organic energy drink. And somebody said that based on your looks alone, that they would peg you as an Olympic cross-country skier. So what do you think about that assessment? And if you put an equal amount of energy into pursuing something that wasn't disc golf professionally, what do you think that would be?
Well, it definitely complements me pretty well that I'm compared to Olympic athlete. I think I would be still something related to sports because so I played badminton before I played disc golf, and becoming a professional athlete was always a dream of mine. But now it wouldn't be badminton that I would pursue as a professional sports. I think I would be more interested into basketball. I think that would be something that I would like, develop more, and also, I feel I have pretty good, I don't know how to say it, not preferences, but like abilities that predict that you're gonna be good. I don't know how what's the word for it in English, but like sort of, I feel like I have good of those things.
What's the word for it in Estonian?
Eeldused. Yeah, I don't know how to say it. Yeah, I don't know what's the translation to English on it.
There may not be one. I love that. So you started last year down in Florida. I was at All-Star Weekend, spectating, and I was watching the long drive competition where you placed second with an incredible drive. You placed third in the long drive competition at Worlds. You are absolutely known as one of the longest arms on tour. How much fun do you have sort of showing off on those sort of big distance competitions? And do we need to break Anthony Barella's arm this year?
My approach to distance competitions is like, I don't really train for them specifically. I just go out there and have fun. If I throw good, I mostly compete against myself, that I have my marks that I want to clear. And like, if somebody throws further than me, like, great. No, we don't need to break AB's arm, because I'm curious to see like how far we can get the disc into a different competition.
And it looks like Gannon is training for some distance this year. I think he said he wants to try and hit 800 feet.
Yeah, distance is a sensitive topic in that way, because there's so many variables that go up into the conditions and everything here. It's a fine art.
Do you prefer in the distance competition where it's distance plus accuracy, where you have like the out of bounds lines, or do you like it more like it was last year in Florida, where it's just bomb as hard as you can and let it land wherever the hell it wants?
I prefer accuracy too, because I feel like it's I don't know, makes it more of a sport. And it's not just like you have open field and just rip it what direction you want.
Yeah, 100%. So being a Canadian podcast as we are, one of our friends of the pod here is Thomas Gilbert. And I know you said you're not trying to index your throws against anybody else. It's more against yourself. But, you know, between Bazooka and Big Maple, Thomas Gilbert, who do you think is going to be the distance champ? Because we didn't get to see it at All-Stars this year because Thomas wasn't competing.
This year, I think it was 1-1 because Thomas wasn't at All Stars. He maybe played at Las Vegas, but I wasn't there. At Worlds, I'm pretty sure I beat him, and at USDC he got into the finals and I did not. So looking like this, it's 1-1.
That's a pretty even matchup.
Yeah, it's the days are different out there, you know.
So when you're throwing for max distance, are you busting out the Ballista Pro, or do you have like certain discs that don't normally make it into the bag that you just break out when you're going for these distance competitions?
I have specific set of 5 that I use for distances. They're a little bit lighter. They're like 169 triple burst gold line Ballista Pros. I found that plastic has the best like combination of speed and glide and also stability. It's not so flippy, but it's like something that I can flip from hyzer flip, but it's not quick turning. It's like has this nice glidey turn. And if the conditions are a little bit different, then I have a truckload of Ballista Pros in the trunk. So whenever the conditions are a little bit different, then I kind of like adapt to what's the current situation. But when it's tailwind, those are usually my guaranteed 5 discs that I take out.
You're looking for something that has a little more understability to it?
Yeah, and for example, when it's headwind, then I'm probably gonna change the line instead of going high. I'm kind of finding a line that I can push more forward and just push through the wind, because going higher with the headwind, it will just bring the disc back.
Yeah, no, I actually, for the longest time, the furthest I had thrown a disc was a Ballista Pro Opto Air, I want to say, somewhere around 155. I found you can really push those discs on crazy lines. My bag has changed over the years, but I always wind up coming back to it every once in a while. I think that was the first disc I broke 400 with, was which obviously for you that's like a Berg upshot, but for me I was pretty happy with that. On a different note, after 4 straight years between 2018 and 2021, you were able to reclaim this year your title as MPO champion at the Estonian Disc Golf Championship, winning by 3 strokes over Mauri Vilman, whose name I'm sure I'm butchering as we were discussing earlier. How satisfying was it to reclaim the title of national champion for you in what is now, you talked about a smaller field before, but Estonia is a bit of a disc golf powerhouse, a very strong nation. How was it to reclaim that title?
Yeah, you got the name down pretty good. And for me, I was actually, also whenever I won, I was going over, all the previous wins I had at the Nationals. And I would say that one stood out from all the other ones. Like there was this, because I was 4 back or 3 back going into the final round. And so I made a huge comeback on that round to win. And like some of the decisions and some of the throws during that round, they were like just different. I don't know how to describe. Like maybe I do know like the mindset I had for the round was that like whatever happens, I'm gonna leave this event with no regret. And there were like, I would say clear, like hole 17, I remember for sure. Like I had like a circle's edge putt, like it was crazy wind during that round, and it's one of the more open holes out there. And Maury was for sure gonna lose a stroke, and I was putting for birdie, and he was putting for a par. No, he was putting for a bogey from I don't know, edge of C1, so like maybe 12 meters. And like, see, he made a putt, and I asked myself, like, okay, I can take the easy way out. I lay up, I take one stroke back. It's I didn't know what the scores were there, but like, then I was like, but would I regret it? Like, if I go home from this event and like I think back and I'm like, man, 17's layup. That's gonna haunt me for a while. And I was like, well, I'm gonna go for the putt because I feel like if I mess it up, sure, but at least I know I did what I felt right. And I would say like a lot of those decisions happened during that round, and I think because of this victory really stood out to me, because I felt like I took the win, not that I got given the win. Maybe that's the difference. Why it stood out from every other one.
Yeah, no, 100%. No regrets on the course. I love that. There's a saying that that we have in English. I don't know if you've heard it before. That goes, I came here to do X and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum. So like, I came here to kick ass and chew bubblegum. I'm all out of bubblegum. To me, I came here to kick ass. So I feel like it's, I came here to run putts and, chew Bazooka Joe bubblegum. I'm all out of Bazooka Joe, is what applies here. Looking here to ahead to 2025 as we are right now, what events are you looking most forward to? I imagine you're excited about Worlds, the European Disc Golf Festival, but what's the most exciting thing on the horizon for you?
Yeah, event-wise, I'm curious to see how the first European Worlds will look like, and also the European Disc Golf Festival, because I think both of those events will set a new standard for how to run events and what you can do, like just expand the perspective. Maybe not from results or like events. I'm excited just to see how collaboration with Jonas will like look, because it's really contrast to my approach that I've used, and but I see the shortcomings of my approach. So I'm like really interested of that journey to really go in the other direction with my beliefs. It's a little challenging, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm excited at the same time.
I'm curious to see how Estonia is going to top the European Disc Golf Festival from this year with that big entrance stage and the smoke guns and the big screen. That truly set the new bar for kicking off a tournament, and I can't wait to see what they do this year.
Yeah, I think like that venue is also, it's one of a kind. So it can be also that like all the things they do there are all also possible thanks to the venue. So, but it just expands the view a little bit, like, oh, we never really thought about that we can go like this too. But I think they have one of the best venues to test out great ideas.
Do you think the course needs to be made tougher this year? Because it looked, purely as, very much a spectator, it didn't look like the hardest of courses for MPO.
Yeah, it's like there's the kind of like the downside. Like you can have great venues, but like course-wise, you have to sacrifice a little bit. I think they're gonna make it more challenging, from what I've heard. But it's like eventually the cream will rise to the top, as Nate does like to say. But yeah, it's kind of like a problem that goes hand in hand. That like we can have great complexes for the spectators and like to do awesome events, but then you're sacrificing a little bit from the course side, and vice versa, that we have like awesome courses that are testing all the skills for the players, but they're not so good to spectate on, and like your hands a little bit more tied, and maybe they don't have the best cell reception either. So there's like this sort of like an ongoing process year to year.
as a spectator, I don't mind watching the occasional sort of birdie or die tournament. I think that can be, that tests a different sort of aspect of the game. It can be a lot of fun, kind of like, like Memorial. You got to shoot a -18 to be in contention. Do you like that style of sort of birdie or die, or do you like more of a sort of a longer, tougher Maple Hill kind of course?
I'm a big fan of like that course is like really grinding me. Like I like that type of I like those type of courses, and for me it's more fun when for example, Maple Hill is a great example. Like all the shots, like to get to the birdie, they have to be like spot on. You can't be like, oh, I missed my shot a little bit here, there, and I make up with something. But I don't mind the birdie or die aspect either. I think, as I said, it tests a different mental element, but I prefer like really tough tournament courses.
Well, we've kept you here quite a long time. We really appreciate your time. But before we let you go, we have a lightning round tradition here on Miss Mando. Basically, short, stupid questions, and just get your sort of instinctual answer to them. So first, what is your favorite course?
Maple Hill.
Fantastic choice. For 3 years, I've been on staff. I was a spotter on 14 this year. I was your certified spotter on 14, and I absolutely love that course. I can't wait to go back next year.
And how about the hardest course you've ever played?
I think Tampere this year. And that's actually like also one of my favorite courses, because it's like, I think Tampere is like great standard for tournament disc golf.
If you had to pick, I think we've already briefly talked about this, but if you had to pick one course other than disc golf to watch or play, what would it be? I think you said basketball. Is that still your answer?
Wait, play or watch? What was the question?
Let's go with both.
Mm,
2 answers, maybe.
yeah, okay. I just recently went to basketball live game, so I would say basketball lives are cool. I would say I would pick this as a watching sport. And I would probably prefer like when it's like national games, so it's like country versus country. Then it's a bit more heated. To play, let's go sand volleyball.
Nice. And we were talking earlier about living the van life. What's your favorite place to stop for food on a road trip?
Right now it's Costco hot dogs.
You cannot beat $1.50 for a dog and a drink.
Yeah, and also you fill up the tank also really well. Win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. What movie never gets old for you, no matter how many times you watch it?
I think Lord of the Rings.
The whole trilogy, or just one of the episodes?
Yeah, I can just go over them like without a problem.
And do you go extended edition or theatrical release?
I go whatever I get my hands on.
Personally, I'm more theatrical. I don't need a 5-hour version of The Council at Rivendell, but I'm good either way. Just absolutely solid pick.
Yeah, those are definitely comfort movies for me. Every holiday season, I don't know why, but there's something about sitting and rotting on a couch and watching Lord of the Rings that it just feels right. If you could have any superpower, Albert, what would it be?
Hmm. Superpower. That's a great question. I don't even know. Like, what would be something that I may? I would take that. What Wolverine has that I can self heal, or whatever the thing he has.
Regeneration.
Yeah.
And then last question, who would be better, Albert at volleyball or your girlfriend Christine at disc golf?
Albert at volleyball.
They have the height for it.
Yeah, I can play solid.
I also love that was the fastest answer that we got out of you in the lightning round. I was like, no, Albert.
Does she play disc golf at all?
No, but every one show I'll sure will throw.
Yeah. My wife and I had a similar arrangement, though I'm playing at a much lower level, of course, than you are. Now, as Sean was saying, we have taken up far too much of your time, and we're so grateful that you joined us on Miss Mando today. Before we let you go, I just want to make sure we give you the floor here. Do you have any shout outs, whether it's to sponsors or important people in your life, or any final comments? The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks for having me in the show. If you'd like to support me, you can find my Team Series disc on Latitude Factory store. And yeah, just my social media is Albert Tamm on Instagram. And if you're interested in my story, then head there. Thank you.
We'll absolutely be adding that into the show notes for sure. Thank you very much again for joining us, and we will be right back on Miss Mando.
Welcome back to Miss Mando. Thank you so much once again to Mr. Albert Tamm for coming on to the show. Unfortunate that I couldn't be there for that one. I definitely missed out on a good one. So I hope everybody enjoyed that chat with Albert. And we are now going to move into this episode's edition of Miss Mando Podium Picks. Last episode, we had the MPO free agents, which Galen absolutely mopped the floor with Sean and myself, taking 66 total votes compared to 21 for myself and 4 for Sean. So, and Sean setting record new lows with only 4 votes. It doesn't help when you accidentally draft a player that you didn't mean to.
Yeah, and I will note that that one of those votes was my own on Instagram.
I'm the only one that's not voting for myself in these. It's cute.
Immerse it as much as I can.
I am shamelessly voting for myself. Yeah, don't be ridiculous.
Absolutely. Yeah, I as many have done before, I mistakenly assumed that Evan Scott and Evan Smith were the same person. And I had in my mind Evan Smith, who absolutely crushed it this last year, and is like super high rated, and not Evan Scott, who is much less highly rated. And yeah, I think reasonably I came in third place, and I absolutely crapped that one.
And like, to be clear, no shade to Evan, who is eons better at disc golf than any of us are. Just not who you meant to pick.
100% shade.
Sean's always throwing shade. And my plan of drafting Thomas Gilbert to try and steal some of the Ontario vote did not work for me at all. Thomas Gilbert himself voted on this poll and did not vote for me, even though I had him on my team. He did vote for Galen. So Galen, well done in that one. The MPO free agents. And this week we are going to do FPO free agents. So same thing as last week or last episode, we are going to use the Ulti-World contract tracker to go off of for that. So any contracts that are showing as expiring in 2024 will be eligible. And the draft order this time is going to be Galen, Sean, and then myself, snake style draft as always. So Galen, let's kick it off. You draft and none the long.
Just to timestamp this draft, we're recording this part of the show on December 15th at about 9 p.m. So if somebody announced a contract after after we recorded this. Well, we're pretending that they hadn't.
And if it was announced before this and isn't updated in the chart, then it's Ultiworld's fault. It's not ours.
Yeah, this
It takes zero responsibility.
Totally a half-assed operation.
100%.
Yeah, no full asses to be had here, half asses only. With that said, first overall pick, looking through the Ulti World expiring in 2024, gotta be Own Dog and Scoggins. I mean, you know, if we're looking at the list that's here, there are some spectacular FPO golfers, but you know, she is in the toppest of the top tier, and I feel I would be remiss if I didn't take the Own Dog. So off the board, Own Scoggins, first overall pick.
How can you not pick Owen Scoggins first? Like absolute the top one on the availability list.
Well, 100%.
I'm going for one. I think I have a feeling I'm stealing this one from Robbie. I'm going. She had a great run in Europe, but she
was the worst.
She can be a little hit and miss. She can hit those highs and then drop down a little bit. I'm going Silva Saarinen as my first pick. I think she finished strong last season, had a great second half, and she's going to come into 2025 just crushed it.
Yeah, that stings a lot for me. I thought you were going to go with who is now going to be my first pick, Ella Hansen. I thought is who you were going to go with, and I was going to be able to get Silva. Definitely wanted her on my team. Everybody knows that I was picking her so often this year, and she definitely helped me in my run to claiming our podium picks, regular season podium picks, number one spot, edging out Galen there. So I'm going to go with Ella Hansen for my first pick, and then I'm going to follow it up. There are some interesting names here to take, but I won't get another pick until the last pick now, and I don't think this player is going to make it back around to me again. So I'm going to have to take her here, and she's got to be one of the, I guess, brightest up and coming athletes into the sport with an absolute missile for an arm. If she can just get it a little more under control. I don't know exactly her putting stats or anything like that. If she's needs to improve putting, everybody can improve their putting a little bit. But I am going to take with my second pick, Eliezra Midling.
Not where I thought you were going with that, but but solid pick, solid pick.
Yeah, I did not think she would make it back around to me. Both you guys have two picks here coming up before it gets back to me. I figured one of you guys would take her. It was a bit of a gamble. Then we'll see what I'm left with at the end here.
Wasn't where I was. She wasn't even on my list, to be honest with you. Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, she was not on my list either.
Oh, dang.
What I think is, I bet you if we were to hold a vote on podium picks at the end of next season, there's a really good chance you could take it down, because I think she's got massive growth potential. But I think she could have a spectacular 2025. But what I'm trying to think of right now is not only who is going to have the best 2025, but also who's got maybe a track record where people are going to go, if they're placing a vote, here's somebody that had a kick-ass 23 and 24. Not that she didn't, but I'm looking at more established quantities. But I think that if we look back at this in a year, Sean and I could both look like idiots for saying she was on our list easily. And we look like idiots a lot anyway. So
this is true. This is 100% accurate. So my second pick time. I think this disc golfer had a really solid 2025 and was wrong.
2025. What year were you in?
Sorry, 2024. Thank you. and was robbed for one of the player categories at the Pro Tour Awards this year. Absolute shambles that she did not win Most Improved Player. I got to go friend of the show, Rebecca Cox, for my second pick.
Friend of the show?
She had such an amazing year this year. I think she's going to keep just keep chugging that through 2025.
Love that pick. She was definitely on my list.
Totally. And am I going back to back now? Is that how the snake order is working? Yeah. If Sean didn't take Rebecca, she was 100% going to be one of my choices. So cannot remotely hate on that. Next off the board, I am going to have to go with my girl, Kat Merch. She has been on an upward trajectory, but just so solid. Some peaks and valleys here and there, but like consistent as hell in being somebody that's in the conversation to win or podium any tournament that she plays for so long. Finished great in the end of year TGPT standings and the world rankings of the PDGA. So I got to go with Kat Merch for my second pick. I got a few I'm sort of waffling here between for my next pick. Part of me wants to go Haley King. Part of me wants to go Val Mandahano. Part of me wants to go Heidi Line. And there are some great names still on the board. I mean, I think Sarah Hokum's still out there. Lucky Lorenzen, Ali Smith, Macy Bella Diaz. Like there are options here. Gun to my head though, I'm gonna lock in Valerie Mandahano as my third FBO pick. Lock it and load it.
Yeah, I mean, coming off an injury, I think she still had a really good season. That injury should be well past her by next year. She was 14th in the Pro Tour ranking. Fantastic pick.
Got nothing to add to that. Great pick.
Yeah, and
I may have blown this with my second pick. I'm realizing.
So
No shit. Hey, as
long as you get 5 votes, as long as you get 5 votes, you're good.
Yeah,
you got to beat Sean by 1 from last week.
It's fair. I'm going Heidi Line. I really liked her play this year. Super nice person. I think, with so much of the tour in Europe, I think she'll do very well there. Between her and Silva, I'm Euro stacked. And I'm going Haiti.
Yeah, I love that. Like 4th overall GTPT Europe. I think her rating is like in the mid to high 960s now. She had a heck of a season. And especially with a little bit more of that European swing coming up. Super dig that. Nice pick.
That is a great pick. Definitely would have been in consideration for me for my last pick. And realizing now that I could have had Ellie Ezra just fall to me in the last round definitely makes me rethink my draft strategy, and I kind of shot myself in the foot. But I still have a great player fall to me in the last round and potentially has the highest ceiling in FPO of any player. It's just a matter of her getting it together consistently and playing consistently, like just actually playing more, just playing more on the tour, being more in events.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, and this. Yeah. Got to put down the Fortnite.
No. Exactly. Yes. It needs to be out on the course a little more. I am going with Haley King. Just an unbelievable talent. Insanely talented at disc golf. When she is on, she is 100% one of the top players in the game. It's just, we don't see that as often anymore. And this year was definitely a struggle. When she was playing, you didn't really hear about her at all. And she didn't play that often. So it wasn't that great, but still going to go with the overall potential of a player. And I'm going to go with Haley King to round out my roster, which is going to give us Galen, Owen Scoggins, Cap Merch, Valerie Mondahano, Sean Silva Sodernen, Rebecca Cox, Heidi Leine, and myself, Ella Hansen, Ellie Ezra Midling, and Haley King. So we will have that up for vote already by the time you guys are listening to this. So if you haven't already, go look for the post on our Instagram, on Facebook, in some of the Ontario disc golf groups, and go vote for the best, aka me.
It's amazing that five of the top 10 in the world rankings were available to pick.
That is breezers.
Yeah.
And also some names that ended up getting left on the board, Sarah Hokum, Lucky Lorenzen, Juliana Corver. Anybody want to take a run at Juliana Corver, signing her? Holly Finley, Erica Stinchcombe, Jessica Weave, Paige Shue, Jen Allen, all notable names still left on the board.
Gotta say, I do love the final pick there, Robbie, with Haley King. I think you're totally right that she's got one of, if not the highest ceilings on the tour. And I will say, I feel slightly vindicated that, every once in a while I get some imposter syndrome. I feel like both of you guys know more about the Pro Tour than me. And I'm like, okay, these are my 3 picks. I'm not sure I'm going with this one. And then the other 2 went off the board right away. So I like that our heads are all in the same place, but hopefully the viewer, obviously, our singular viewer, sees that my team is the best and votes for it online soon.
It's actually kind of tough looking at it right now, just looking at all 3 of our teams written out. And I think you and Sean have very good, very balanced lineups. I definitely, I have a strong lineup. It's a bit of a risk with
This
Ellie Ezra.
high risk, high reward with both Haley and Eliezra, where it's like, if they go off, they are going to go off. Yet also there's not necessarily the recent proven track record, with, Haley not playing as much and Eliezra on her way up still.
And in a system like this where we are relying on votes from people, I think people are going to vote more so for recent success instead of future potential. So I think that bodes well for both of your guys' team. But who knows? Maybe my home run swing will make contact and go sailing out of the yard. We all want a baseball reference, right? But anyways, fellas, anything final that you guys got for our Missed Mando podium segment? Doesn't look like it from the fellas. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of Missed Mando. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in once again. For Galen Nadu Harris and Sean Galbraith, I'm Robbie Holden, and we will see you on the course.